Welcome back to my channel. My name is Allie if you have not been here before, and thanks so much for watching this video. If you're new here, I am about 4.5 months postpartum. I had my first child, my little baby boy, back in December, and when I was pregnant, I feel like I was served nothing but traumatic birth stories on the internet. Thank you so much, algorithm. It made me expect the worst going into labor and delivery, and me just being a naturally anxious person that definitely struggles with intrusive thoughts. I just had so much anxiety during my third trimester thinking about the day that I was going to give birth. Not necessarily about the pain or anything, just really being worried that something horrible was going to happen. Granted, this is my first pregnancy. I know being scared and having fear around all of that stuff is very, very normal. What actually ended up happening was the best possible circumstance that I ever could have hoped for. My son's birth was very smooth. Pretty much every woman I've talked to about this was kind of shocked at how it all went down, especially with it being my first. I only pushed for 8 minutes, but more on that later. Let me be clear though, I do think it is important to share your birth story if you are wanting to share it, whether it went really smoothly or it was a little bit more traumatic. If your birth story is something that you want to share, I do think it makes people feel less alone, which is extremely important. And at the end of the day, it is just absolutely amazing that our bodies can create and carry and deliver life into the world. So if you are a little bit nervous, not all birth stories are just wild and crazy. I just wanted to put mine out into the atmosphere to hopefully get you excited for literally the best day of your life. I definitely did some things to prep for my son's delivery, and I can't say for certain that that's why he came out so quickly and so smoothly, but I wanted to share these tips with you to maybe talk with your OB about, because it could potentially help. So I'll definitely share those little tips at the end of the video, but before we get started, please make sure you subscribe to my channel if you have not already. Hit that notification bell so you're notified every single time I upload. If you guys enjoy this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I'd so appreciate that. Leave a little comment down below letting me know what else you guys would like to see from me. All of my social channels will be linked down in the description box, and that is it. Let's go ahead and get into my birth story. The week before I gave birth was wild. It was the worst I had felt since my first trimester. I was dealing with so many crazy symptoms. My digestion was all off. I just didn't feel right. I don't know how to explain it really. I just wasn't well. Like I felt really, really unwell. I spent most of the time laid up on the couch, and that's just very not like me at all. I had a really busy week that week too, with work obligations as well as some personal family stuff that was going on, and I just wasn't feeling myself at all. And it was a bummer to me because my second trimester was amazing. Even going into my third trimester, I was feeling great. So it freaked me out a little bit that I just wasn't feeling well. I went to go see my OB later on in the week, and at that point I had started feeling a bit better, but she could tell that I still was a bit off. She actually offered to induce me at 39 weeks if I just felt like I could not do it anymore. But by the end of the week, I was feeling a lot better, a lot more myself, so much so that I actually attended a friend of mine's holiday party. My parents were there too, and it was so funny. Everyone was kind of like predicting when is baby gonna come, and my mom was like, I think he's coming on Tuesday the 17th, and everyone's like, what are you talking about? This is her first baby. There's just no way he's gonna come early. She said it like 3 different times, and we're all just like, okay, mom. On Monday, the 16th, my husband and I went for a walk. We took our dogs for a walk in the morning. Normal morning. I had been doing this for months, ever since the weather got cool again. My husband and I were taking walks, and I was really used to having Braxton Hicks contractions while I was walking, but this walk, again, something was different. About halfway through the walk, I was like, this is harder than normal. I also noticed that morning that the baby felt a little bit different. I could still feel him moving, but I didn't feel like his movements were as strong as they were. My baby would kick me like crazy in the womb, and again, he just felt different. So after that walk, I spent some time on the couch just kind of resting, relaxing, trying to see how I felt, and I felt better. So the rest of the day we spent packing my hospital bag, which I should make a video on that too, because wow, that is a whole situation. Anyway, we finalized packing the hospital bags. We also that day finally finished filling out the birth plan. I had it all saved and ready to print for my OB appointment that Thursday. That night, my husband was packing the hospital bags in our car. I sat down at the dining table and I was texting with a friend of mine who has had 4 babies, and she was just amazing, checking on me my whole pregnancy, just asking how I was doing. I was kind of talking her through how I was feeling in that moment, and to be honest, I had a full breakdown, crying, sobbing, because I was really scared, not of giving birth, but I was scared for how it was all going to go down. I really wanted my water to break so I would know for absolute certain you are in labor. I was so scared I would not understand what the difference was between a Braxton Hicks contraction and real labor contractions. I was scared he was gonna stop moving at some point and I wasn't gonna catch it. There were so many things just swirling through my head, just fears, anxiety. My friend was really nice and comforting me through text message. My husband came back in the house and saw me just in a puddle, and he immediately gave me a hug. I told him what was going on through my head, and he was just so reassuring. We actually took a photo together that night right after my little meltdown, and we're like, you know what? We did all the nesting things that we wanted to do. We packed the hospital bags. Like, let's just spend this next week together, all cozy, and just wait for our little baby boy to come. That was about 6 p.m. By 10:30, I'm laying in bed, and I honestly can't remember if I had just gotten in bed or if I woke up and this happened, but I felt water. It didn't feel like a lot, and I could tell like I didn't pee, but I was just like, that's different. I was thankful I was wearing a pad. At that point, I already had been for like a few weeks just in case. I went to the bathroom and I was like, there's no more water. I'm just gonna change my pad and go back to bed. Within a minute of me laying it down, I felt the same exact sensation. Went to the bathroom, the pad was wet again, but again, it wasn't like a rushing water situation. So I was just really uncertain, like, is this my water breaking? Is it not? Change my pad, let me get back in bed. Almost immediately with me laying down, happens again. And at that point, I'm like, yeah, I think things are happening. So I wake up my husband, I'm like, hey, I think my water broke. And he was like, what? Are you sure? And I was like, yeah, no, like my water broke for sure. So he's like, all right, let's get up. So we get up, we start kind of like getting ourselves together. I don't think I had gotten like even a minute of sleep. I think maybe he got like 15 minutes, but we were like, okay, this is happening. So we got our last minute things together. I called my mom. The first thing my mom said to me on the phone was, oh my gosh, was I right? And I was like, yeah, my water just broke. And at that point too, like the water did not stop coming. It wasn't like a stop, go type of thing. It was happening constantly. And then the contractions started, but I had to go print my birth plan. So I printed out a couple copies while my water is actively breaking and I'm having contractions. It was just kind of hilarious. Thank God we had just packed our hospital bags and finalized the birth plan. Like, I would have been so stressed if that stuff was not done. Anyways, get in the car, we're driving to the hospital, and it all just feels like a dream. Neither one of us were like freaking out. I didn't really feel anxious at all. It just felt like a dream. It felt very serene though. So we get to the hospital. My contractions were definitely intensifying on the way to the hospital. We get to the hospital, we're filling out forms. She's asking me questions. I'm breathing through contractions. I was like, oh yeah, this definitely feels different than Braxton Hicks for sure. They sent us to triage, which seemed to take forever. They had to test the fluid to make sure it was amniotic fluid and make 100% certain that my water did break. They hooked me up to all these machines to make sure that me and baby are okay. And we were there, I think, for like 2-ish hours, and I'm just like leaking all over the bed. Sorry, TMI, but it was kind of disgusting. They also checked me and I was 2.5 centimeters dilated. At one point she said 2 and another point she said 3, so I'm just gonna call it 2.5. Once they confirmed that for sure I was in labor, they sent me to labor and delivery. That was about like 2:30 in the morning. I met my nurses and they let me know that the doctor was notified. She was actually on call and over at a different hospital across town doing a C-section, and they were like, don't worry, she's gonna be back in time to deliver your baby. It's gonna be a while from now. probably like 9 or 10 in the morning. So I wasn't really worried about it. I was like, we've got time, it's okay. Like I said, that was like 2:30 in the morning. I did want an epidural and they asked me like, hey, do you want it now? And I said, what do you recommend? I did have a birth plan. It wasn't like super specific on everything, but I kind of just went into it wanting to say like, hey, you guys are the experts. You tell me what you think I should do. I wasn't sure if I should get my epidural right away or if I should wait till I was further along. They were like, honestly, you're gonna be way more comfortable if you get it now. So I was like, okay, these contractions are not very fun. So I thought I was gonna get it around 3. Contractions definitely started getting worse, for sure. And they were like trying to page the anesthesiologist. I guess he was asleep. About an hour after they paged the anesthesiologist, he finally moseyed his way on in to the room. You could tell that he was kind of cranky, that he had to be woken up. I'm sorry, I didn't plan for this. My husband was kind of annoyed at how cranky he was. I did not care. I was just like, get this needle in me ASAP. I am sick of these contractions. They were definitely getting way more painful. And I am the type of person who will get woozy, borderline, almost pass out with any kind of needle, especially like getting my blood drawn. I did not look at the needle. I did not look at what he was doing. I literally just followed the instructions. And when they got me into position to get the epidural, I was just in my mind like, be as still as you possibly can. Like, do not move. And honestly, I don't even remember what it felt like. I don't really even think it hurt. And I don't know if I was just like so zen in that moment or if the contractions like just hurt way worse that I just couldn't really compare the pain, but I was fine. They actually could not believe how still I was, but I knew it was an intense needle and I was more fearful of me just moving and breaking it or something or screwing up the epidural. I just wanted it to work. So I was like, do not move. I don't care how scared you are, just do not move. It took probably like 20-30 minutes for the epidural to fully kick in, and oh my gosh, I felt so much better, leaps and bounds better. They were like, hey, you could go to sleep now if you want. We'll turn off the lights for you guys. And Brian and I were like, okay. Like, I genuinely felt fine. I could not feel a single contraction anymore. They actually put the peanut ball, I don't know exactly what they call it. It literally looks like a giant peanut between my legs to help further dilate me, because I think at that point they had checked me again and maybe I was like 4 centimeters. But anyway, I went to sleep like that on my side with the peanut between my legs for about 2 hours, and then I woke up and I felt horribly nauseous and I was super shaky. I was kind of scared at that point. I woke my husband up and he immediately got one of the nurses. They came in and told me it was completely normal. I can't remember if they told me if it was a reaction to the epidural or if it was just like a normal body kind of response to being in labor, but they gave me a dose of Zofran through my IV and it was within minutes I felt completely normal again, so I was so thankful. That was like probably one of the scarier moments. They also checked me to see how far along I was, and I was 7 centimeters dilated at that point. They decided to change positions for me. I'm pretty sure they put like an exercise ball between my legs. That part is like a little bit hazy. I can't exactly remember, but I remember just being super comfortable. My husband and I were just chatting. I don't even remember what we were chatting about, but I just remember being in a really good mood. Like, I was totally fine. My parents showed up at the hospital around 8 and they could not believe how chill I was. My dad was actually watching the monitor and watching like my contractions happen, and he'd be like, oh my gosh, that's a big one. And I'd be like, cool, I don't feel anything. But then around 9:15 in the morning, I was like, oh no. I started feeling really intense pressure, and I told Brian, I feel like his head is about to pop out. He got the nurse and she checked me, and you could tell she was trying to remain calm, but her face said, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, it's happening. I don't know exactly what was happening behind the scenes, but you can definitely tell she was trying to put on a brave face and just figure out how to get my doctor there ASAP. Then I started feeling really nauseous again, and I was actually really afraid I was going to puke, and I didn't want that to happen because I was fully convinced that if I puked, his head would pop out, and I did not want that happening without my doctor. I just felt like no airflow in the room at all, and I asked my husband, we had brought like a portable fan. We had set it up earlier when we were sleeping, and I said, like, where's the fan? Like, I need air on my face immediately. And he was like, oh my gosh, it's dead. And I was like, no, okay, I can get through it, it's fine. The nurse came back in to tell me my doctor was here, so my parents left the room. I didn't really know what my husband was doing this whole time, and I was still very, very nauseous. And then all of a sudden he pops up with the fan plugged into the wall, air on my face, and I was immediately like, yes, you are my person. Thank you so much for saving me in this moment. I was so grateful. The nausea left. I finally felt like I wasn't going to throw up. My doctor came in the room, and I immediately just felt such a wave of calm come over me. She made me feel so comfortable my entire pregnancy, and I knew that because she was here, I was going to have a safe delivery. She quickly explained to me how I needed to push. She basically said, kind of push like you're trying to get a poop out. Because I could feel the pressure there already, I don't know what I was thinking. Like, as she's explaining to me how to push, I was like, all right, like, I'll push. And she was like, are you doing it? That's exactly how you need to push, but please wait until I tell you to. I didn't know that you were supposed to push with your contractions, so if you didn't know that, now you know. She let me know that, okay, it's time to push once the contraction happened, and I just started pushing. At one point she was like, okay, that's too hard. You're going to potentially tear that way, like a little bit softer. It was like 2 intense pushes, and then the third one was definitely the most intense because I was really trying to get his head out. My husband was up by me here, but he could see what was going on. He was wanting to watch the baby come out. He was kind of watching here and then watching the monitor back here. At one point he saw my baby's heart rate drop, and he immediately kind of panicked, looked at the doctor, and she was like, don't worry, that's completely normal. It was so crazy because as all of this is happening, I don't remember feeling like any emotions. I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel like excited. I literally don't remember feeling anything. I was just so in the zone. And I've heard people say it before that like birthing is such an animalistic experience, and that could not be more true. I feel like all mental thought kind of like left my body. I just kind of like let my body take over. It was such an interesting experience. It just felt so in the zone and centered on what I was doing. The goal is to get the baby out. I'm not thinking about anything else. After that third push, he was like, okay, just one more push. He's coming out. And I just remember gearing up for it, pushing with everything that I had. I remember my husband saying, oh my gosh, I can see him. It's so crazy like thinking back on it now, but I just remember my doctor saying, Allie, look down, because I was still like so in the zone. And I looked down, and she's holding my baby and she's putting him on my chest. And that was the moment where I feel like my mind finally kind of like clicked back in, and I just fully broke down. It was so weird. I felt like it was such an out-of-body experience in a way, because I was so like not here as it was all happening, and then it was like a split second and I was back in my body, and I was like, oh my gosh, I just pushed out this baby. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this baby was just inside my body. Oh my gosh, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. My husband and I were both just sobbing, like could not believe what was happening. I was so distracted by my little beautiful boy on my chest that I had no idea what else was going on around me. I don't remember when I had said it to her, but at some point I said to my doctor, is my placenta out? And she was like, oh yeah, like you're good. We're done, girl. She told me that I had a 1st-degree tear. She had already stitched me up. I had no idea any of that was happening. I was just like, oh my gosh, my baby is here. And he was so perfect and he was so beautiful. My husband and I did bring our camera, so he was snapping some photos and some video. They put him on my chest to do skin to skin. It was like mandatory for an hour. I remember asking like, oh, can my husband hold him? They were like, no, he's got to stay with you for an hour. And I was like, sorry. I'm okay though. I think it was after like 30 minutes, maybe an hour, my parents came in the room and it was like just so sweet seeing their first grandson. And it was just the most beautiful day of my life. He weighed 6 pounds, 9 ounces. He was just so beautiful and so sweet. My entire pregnancy, we had only ever seen his face literally one time on an ultrasound. He literally hid his face like this the entire pregnancy. Every time my doctor went to go look at his face, he was just hiding from us. So it was so exciting to finally see his beautiful little face. We couldn't believe how perfect he was. Giving birth was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. I remember being so scared to deliver vaginally. I actually had asked my doctor at like the second or third appointment if I could do an elective C-section. She was like, no, let's try vaginal. And I'm so grateful that I didn't elect to do a C-section. I know some people want to do that or don't have a choice, but it was a really, really cool experience to be able to push out my baby. And he's here and he's 4.5 months old now and he's just so perfect and so much fun. So anyway, that is my birthing story. But I did want to share a few of the things that I think helped, maybe, possibly, hopefully, with my labor and delivery. And what I mean by prepping your body for delivery is softening your cervix. The first thing I did was I drank red raspberry leaf tea, whatever it's called. I drank 1 cup a day and I actually mixed it with a pineapple lemonade because I'm gonna be honest with you, I hated how it tasted, but mixing it with Minute Maid pineapple lemonade, it was like a 0 sugar lemonade, tasted amazing. I actually looked forward to drinking it every day over ice. Delicious. According to the internet, it says that red raspberry leaf tea helps prepare the uterus for labor by toning the uterine muscles. So that's why I chose to do that. One of the other things that I read helps soften your cervix and get you ready for labor is dates. I didn't necessarily want to eat them on their own. I had heard that they weren't the tastiest thing ever. And during my pregnancy, I had a really hard time with things that didn't taste good to me. So I actually saw a girl on TikTok talk about the fruit bars called That's It. They have a bar that has apple and dates in it. So I thought eating a fruit bar would be a lot easier than just plopping dates in my mouth. So I ate one of those every single day. And then the last thing that I did to prep my body for labor is take a supplement. It's called Christopher's Birth Prep. Again, this is another thing that I found on TikTok. The reviews on Amazon were glowing, but I was a little bit wary about it, and I would recommend absolutely talking to your OB about all of this stuff before you do any of it. But I had her look at the ingredients and she was like, I don't know if it'll help you, but this isn't gonna hurt you, so go for it if it's something you want to do. It says it's a 6-week formula. I definitely didn't take it that long, and I decided to wait until 36 weeks. Again, I was just kind of scared to go into labor too early, and my husband had a work trip. I think it was right before 36 weeks for me, and I was like, I'm definitely not going into labor while he's gone, so I'll wait till he is back. With this supplement, you are supposed to gradually start taking more as the weeks go on. I just took 2 a day from 36 weeks on. I, again, was just nervous that it would be too intense all at once, so that potentially helped as well. One other thing that I can recommend, I was walking every single day with my husband for months, probably 3 months, 4 months before I gave birth. Basically, once it wasn't 1,000 degrees here in Arizona anymore, my husband and I were walking every single morning and almost every single night as well. As hard as it was certain days, I really do think that that could have potentially helped me stay strong so that I could keep a little bit of muscle and endurance to ultimately push out the baby. Anyway, that is what I did. Again, I can't say for certain that it actually helped, but it definitely didn't hurt. I did have a smaller baby too, so I'm sure that is a big part of the reason it was a little bit easier for me to get him out. But regardless, I wanted to share my birthing experience and share with you guys what I used to, I think, get me there. I'll link it all for you guys down below. I definitely want to share my hospital bag packing experience because it was way more stressful, way more hectic than it needed to be. I know I'm an influencer, but my gosh, these influencers are trying to tell you all these things that are so unnecessary to pack. So be on the lookout for that video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. I'd so appreciate that. Leave a comment down below letting me know what else you guys would like to see from me. And if you are a mama to be, best of luck. I hope this story gave you some hope and gave you some excitement for going into labor and ultimately seeing your baby. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!